This one I don't think is as bad because people understand most of the mechanics coming out. It's just that there's a lot happening at the same time. So what we do, as soon as he disappears, we line up like Power Rangers along the front of Brute Justice here. They always spawn south, mind you, or I guess north. My Cardinals are bad. So Cruise Chaser spawn over here, so we know Brute Justice is going to spawn over here. They could be swapped. So we come over to Brute Justice, we spread out because we're about to get assigned a limit cut number. We check our number. I have number 3. Now, the big thing about this mechanic is that every number does something different. And that's why in the description, I'm going to link to you a perspective of every number except 1. I don't have a perspective of 1. But 1 is not that hard. In fact, it's one of the easiest ones to do. Doesn't have a lot of responsibility, and you should get it by watching the other 7 perspectives. So, without further ado, I have been assigned the number 3. The number 3 is one of the easier ones, actually. But it's important to notice your color. I use the color or odd or even, because blues are odd, reds are even. Whatever your color is where you helps decide where to go. Everyone comes middle once they know their number. And reds, so as soon as you come middle, you're going to recognize there's one blue puddle that spawns closer to Alexander and one that spawns farther from Alexander. Alexander's always going to be north, and the blues are going to go on the south side of the northern puddle, and the reds are going to go on the north side of the southern puddle. What that basically means, reds, you go close to Alex, blues, you go far. 1 is going to be baiting the first limit cut conal down south away from us. This initial positioning is important. Brute Justice is going to do a jump to the farthest player from the group. In fact, I want to take this into the diagram. All right, we have Alexander disappears. We have ourselves wrapping around Brute Justice. This is to bait a chakram, by the way. Well, we're baiting a chakram here, actually. And as soon as you get the number, you can run away because the bait is done. After that, we're all going middle. The blues can stay a little further south. The reds a little further north because the reds are going to be close. The blues are going to be far. If you are the 2 player, I recommend using some sort of self-mitigation if you have it. So as like Black Mage, I use Mana Word. If you're Ninja, use Shade Shift. Riddle of Earth maybe for Monk, whatever. Because you will be taking extra damage compared to the other players. So we have the 2 player goal is to bait Brute Justice. So Brute Justice is going to jump to the farthest player. Okay, so it's important to understand. Typically, the blue players, the red players will be along the wall as close as possible to avoid an apocalyptic ray that's going to come out. But you don't want to go there quite yet because Brute Justice, if the blue players were all the way on the wall, then they might bait Brute Justice. In fact, they almost assuredly will. They will be farther from Brute Justice than the 2 players. So the blue players want to come south of the puddle, but don't quite go to the wall yet. You will need to go to the wall once Brute Justice jumps, but wait for that jump. Important to note, everyone can stand in the puddles during this time. The puddles do no damage. They don't do any sort of meaningful debuff. They're there to be soaked by 1 player at an appropriate time, but that time does not trigger yet. It doesn't trigger until after Brute Justice has jumped, a few seconds after. So once Brute Justice jumps, you need to get out of the puddle. But if you need to use it, which we typically do to avoid, getting along the wall, to avoid getting hit by conal cleaves, you can. It's perfectly fine to use. And I would try and get comfortable using it, honestly, because it only matters that you're in it or not after Brute Justice jumps. Anyways, Brute Justice jumps to the farthest players. The 2 player is trying to be jumped to here. And you'll notice, look at the puddle spawns. In the video I showed you, the puddles spawned in the opposite orientation. The purple puddle was up here and down here, so they can be just it can be the flip of this, is what I should say. Like 2 could need to stand over here, and the red's over here, the blue's over here. So in this scenario, though, the 2 player comes and gets on this spoke here. They don't get on a red circle. They get on this very particular spot you need to stand in here. They stand here. Brute Justice is going to jump to them, and at the same time, they need to be facing the 1 player. They need to be facing this way because Cruise Chaser is going to do a line dash at the 2 player. For safety, you can pop your knockback immunity, then it doesn't matter where you're facing, but just make a good habit of facing them because maybe for some reason your knockback immunity is not up because you messed up or whatever. Good habit to have, just face Cruise Chaser when it dashes at you. So it's going to conal cleave 1, so 1 needs to be facing away from the blue players here. Then Cruise Chaser dashes at 2. After that, these 1 and 2 players are going to come back towards their group. Brute Justice will have jumped. Brute Justice is going to do an apocalyptic ray towards the blue players once it jumps at 2. So when 2 leaves, after Cruise Chaser dashes at 2, Apoc Ray is going to come out at the same time to these blue players. They need to leave along this side. They don't want to leave this way or they will die. So run along this way, join your other group here along the wall so that you don't get hit by Apocalyptic Ray. It's a giant AoE, giant conal AoE, and the blue players are like just barely far enough to not get hit by it. That's 1 and 2. Once they do their limit cut baits, they join where the rest of the group is. Once 1 and 2 happens, 3 and 4 are going to bait in these same positions more or less. All right, so if I can walk that through just a second here, we have the chakrams firing here. We have 1 shooting out here as a conal towards this player. Typically, you can get knocked forward or use your knockback immunity, but Cruise Chaser does a line dash at 2. What you don't want to happen is, there are these rigid rectangle hitboxes that Cruise Chaser is going to shoot. He can kind of hit people that are on his side is the thing. So if you use your knockback immunity, you might be so close to Cruise Chaser if you don't move away that you get hit by the line dash. The line dashes really clip a lot of people, so you really need to pay attention to those line dashes and make sure you're not really anywhere close to them because they're a little bit wonky of a hitbox, especially when you're close to Cruise Chaser. So 1 baits cone, dashes at 2. You'll see that right here, plus a super jump at the same time. If you're 2, your screen is just overloaded with crap going on right now, but just you keep your cool. 1 returns to the party. Apocalyptic Ray comes out, shoots at the blues. 2 returns to the party. 4 moves up closer to Brute Justice to bait the line dash from a limit cut. 6 gets in the puddle. 5 gets in the puddle to bait the first explosion. You kind of want to do this right after Brute Justice jumps. So if you're 5 or 6, get in the puddle right after Brute Justice jumps. If you're red, make sure you're as close to the outside of the puddle as you can. So typically that means getting in the puddle as close to the wall as possible to avoid Apocalyptic Ray. Apocalyptic Ray people frequently die to because it's a big danger zone for a pretty long duration. So 5 and 6 in the puddle. 3 and 4 are about to bait their conals. 3 is about to bait its conal. 4 is line AoE. So 3 is going to shoot a conal AoE. Need to aim it away from the party. That's going to be right here. They get knocked forward a little bit. The line dash is going to come over to 4. You'll see how close like 5 is from getting hit in this diagram. Like it's pretty close. You got to watch out for that. 7 and 8 are going to get in the next puddle. At this time, Alexander does a sacrament. Is the name of the cast. It does a big AoE towards the center and off to the side. If you are baiting a line AoE, you could get hit by this. You got to be careful. When you come up to bait the line dash, you don't want to go too far. Don't go past this red dot, and you should be safe. But you see him preparing a cast for this. So if you just watch Alexander, you'll see where the AoE is going to come from. And I'll show you that in game in a second. But I mean, there's a lot going on. So people could easily miss it, to be honest. But 7 and 8 get in the puddles next. It starts with 5, 6. They do the first soak. 7 and 8 are going to do the second soak. 1 and 2 are going to do the third soak in the puddle, the third and final one. And 3 and 4 don't have to do a puddle soak. That's why I said they're kind of easy. So 7 and 8 in the puddle, they are in heavy danger of getting hit by Apocalyptic Ray, as you can see. They're the last people to have to deal with Apocalyptic Ray because it's about to disappear. But as I said, yeah, make sure you're on that edge of the puddle so you don't get hit by Apocalyptic Ray, because it's really going to be tight. And the rest of the players are just close to the edge. Yeah, that's where you want to be when you're not dealing with anything. Conal AoE, dash. You'll notice Apocalyptic Ray stopped. There is one more puddle soak left. 1 and 2 do it. 7 and 8 do the last limit cut. At the end of all this, it's recommended to cast Sprint and get middle immediately because people need those AoE heals and people are separated. And there's really not a lot you can do to avoid that. But big damage is about to come out, as I said. There's going to be a big stack marker. Anyone not topped off could be dead, especially if you miss a heal. And that really messes up the enumerations that come up after it. So big heals needed here for a stack. And then what we do here is 2 players get assigned enumeration. So these 2 players are always DPS. So what we do is we have 2 groups. Remember, you need 3 people in each group. We'll have this toolbox is different than how we like to do it. We have the healers always go to the right group, the tanks always go to the left group, and then since 2 DPS always get the enumerations, it's just their job to make sure they go to a different group. And you don't have a lot of time. Just yell out in Discord where you're going. That's straight up the best strategy. Just be like, as quickly as you can, just say, I'm left, and then the other one is like, okay, they're going right. Hopefully you don't have overlapping comms, but that's really what we do to do it, and we haven't had many problems, if at all. And then you've done Wormhole. Congratulations. You're well on your way to victory if you pass that mechanic, because the rest of the fight's pretty easy, but it's just really hard to get there consistently. So let's look at Wormhole from the perspective of 3. We have our chakram bait. We got our numbers. We're going middle. I'm blue, so I know I'm going to a southern area on the map, south of the northern puddle. Going over here behind the southern puddle. Going to chill right next to this puddle. Chakrams are baited over there. Sometimes they're going to be baited over here because Cruise Chaser could be on this side. So we don't usually go towards the wall. We also don't want to go towards the wall because we don't want to accidentally bait Brute Justice by being too far from him. Because this player over here is trying to bait Brute Justice by being the farthest player. So that's why we're a little closer than normal. One typically just baits like Cruise Chaser straight south, almost. Our whole blue team gets cleaved here, if you'll notice. So this really messes up my positioning here and gets me killed. So I will show you guys a run where things go right. All right, so I'm going to show you the perspective of 5 here, where we clear Wormhole. So I'm going to go to the southern side of the northern puddle again. Don't quite go to the wall. Chakram baits were in the same spot. One is basically shooting Cruise Chaser straight south, dashing at 2 over here, positioning themselves between the 2 red circles. I'm 5, so I'm able to be the first one in the puddle. I get in the puddle once the super jump is complete. This is when the first bait comes off. You'll see Sacrament about to be fired here. 3 and 4 positioning themselves. 2 exited from Brute Justice to the right to not get hit by Apocalyptic Ray. 4 getting in position for the line dash that's going to come from Cruise Chaser. 3 faced Cruise Chaser outside of the arena, very close to the wall, but pop knockback immunity so as not to get hit into it. That's one option you can do. 3 dashes at 4. I soaked the puddle myself. 7 and 8 now getting puddles. 5 and 6 now prep for limit cut. I just face mine somewhat south. It's fine. Dashes at 6 over there. 7 and 8 now do the final limit cut, and 1 and 2 are the ones in the puddles. They soak the puddles. Now from here, we got a very low healer. I'm low. Everyone needs healing. We pop sprint. Get in the middle. Get those AoE heals out because we got a stack marker on us. We're about to take big damage. 2 enumerations, we're assigned them. We call out as soon as possible where to separate. Healers to the right, tanks to the left. Other 2 DPS just get the heck out. These 2 DPS will be needed if someone's dead. So, you don't want to just avoid at all costs because you need 3 per stack. So you're just kind of the backup if someone's dead. Usually if someone died during Wormhole, though, you don't make it this far. So it doesn't happen a lot. Very important here. Mega Holy's coming out. This is where you addle. You will not survive if you don't addle, pretty much. There's 2 Mega Holies cast in a row. And if you cast your addle at the appropriate time, you can get them both. That's your goal here. You need to get them both or wipe chance is pretty high. Mitigation's pretty essential coming up, so. You'll notice, look at this, I'm at like 80% of the cast bar, the addle's still not up. I'm casting addle right now. There it is, applying at 90%. You'll see how close this overlaps. There's another Mega Holy. 2 seconds left. So, I had 2 seconds left on the addle. It's about 8 seconds, so, you have a little bit of flexibility there. You could probably addle at like 60% of the cast of Mega Holy.